the rain and the rose. The rain fell in heavy sheets across the city, turning the streets into rivers of reflected streetlights and shadows. It was the kind of rain that sent everyone running for cover, that emptied parks and sidewalks, that made the world feel cold and unwelcoming. Daniel Harrison sat in the back of his town car, watching the water stream down the windows. His driver navigated the slick streets carefully while Daniel reviewed quarterly reports on his tablet. Numbers, projections, profit margins, these were the things that filled his days and his mind. As CEO of Harrison Industries, he had built an empire through careful planning and ruthless efficiency. There was no room for sentiment in business. No room for distraction. "Sir," his driver said, slowing the car, "there's someone on that bench ahead. Looks like they're in trouble." Daniel glanced up, annoyed at the interruption. Through the rain-streaked window, he could make out a figure hunched on a park bench beneath a flickering streetlight. Most people would have sought shelter by now. The storm had been raging for over an hour. "Keep driving," Daniel said automatically, his eyes returning to his tablet. But something made him look up again. Perhaps it was the way the figure was hunched over, protecting something. Perhaps it was the complete stillness of the scene, like a painting of desperation. Perhaps it was something deeper, something he couldn't name. "Stop the car," he heard himself say. The driver pulled over immediately. Daniel set down his tablet and stepped out into the rain, his expensive suit soaking through within seconds. The cold water was a shock against his skin, but he barely noticed. It was focused on the figure on the bench. As he approached, he could see more clearly now. It was a young woman, maybe in her mid-20s, her dark hair plastered to her face and shoulders. She wore a gray blazer over a thin blouse, both completely drenched. But it was what she held that made Daniel's step slow. Wrapped in a deep red blanket, clutched protectively against the woman's chest, was a baby. The woman was rocking gently, humming a soft melody that was almost lost beneath the sound of the rain. She seemed unaware of anything else, the cold, the storm, the world around her. Her entire focus was on the infant in her arms, keeping the blanket pulled tight to shield the baby from the downpour. "Excuse me," Daniel called out, raising his voice to be heard over the rain. The woman's head snapped up. Her eyes were wide and wary, like a wounded animal ready to flee. Even through the rain and darkness, Daniel could see the exhaustion etched into her features, the hollowness of her cheeks, the trembling of her hands. "Are you all right?" It was perhaps the most inadequate question he had ever asked. The woman pulled the baby closer, protective instinct overriding everything else. "We're fine," she said, but her voice shook with cold. "Please, just leave us alone." Daniel moved closer, slowly, keeping his movements careful and non-threatening. Now he could see the baby more clearly, a tiny face peeking out from the red blanket, eyes closed, blissfully unaware of the storm. The infant couldn't have been more than a few months old. "You're both soaking wet," Daniel said, stating the obvious because he didn't know what else to say. "There's a storm. You need to get out of the rain." I said we're fine. The woman's voice was firmer now, but Daniel heard the desperation underneath. This was someone clinging to the last shreds of pride, refusing to admit defeat. "When did you last eat?" Daniel asked quietly. The question seemed to catch the woman off guard. Her defenses faltered for just a moment, and in that moment, Daniel saw everything. The hunger. The fear. The bone-deep weariness of someone who had been fighting alone for too long. "That's none of your business," she whispered, but there were tears mixing with the rain on her face now. Daniel crouched down in front of the bench, bringing himself to her eye level. Water pooled around his expensive shoes, ruining the leather. He didn't care. "My name is Daniel Harrison," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you. But I can't leave you here in this storm with your baby. Please. Let me help." The woman stared at him for a long moment. He watched as something crumbled inside her, as the wall she had been holding up finally gave way. Her shoulders sagged, and a sob escaped her lips. "I lost everything," she said, the words tumbling out. "My apartment. My hope. He had savings, but medical bills from when Emma was born. I couldn't keep up with rent. We've been sleeping in my car, but it finally died 2 days ago. I've been trying to find a shelter, but they're all full. Used. I'm trying to keep her warm. I'm trying to feed her. I'm trying. Her voice broke completely. She looked down at the baby, Emma, with such fierce love that Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Sarah," she whispered. "Sarah Mitchell." Daniel stood and held out his hand. "Sarah, I'm going to help you. Both of you. Come with me." Sarah looked at his outstretched hand, then up at his face, searching for any sign of deception or danger. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because slowly, carefully, she took his hand and let him help her to her feet. Daniel guided them to his car, where his driver already had the door open. The warm interior felt like stepping into another world. Sarah sank into the leather seat, still clutching Emma protectively. "Take us to the Grandview Hotel," Daniel instructed his driver. Then he turned to Sarah. "We're going to get you both warm and dry. Then we're going to get you food. And then we're going to figure out the rest." "I can't pay for a hotel," Sarah said weakly. "I'm not asking you to," Daniel replied. At the Grandview, one of the city's finest hotels, Daniel booked a suite and had the staff bring up dry clothes, food, and supplies for the baby. He stood outside the bathroom while Sarah showered, hearing the water run and run, as if she was trying to wash away more than just the rain. When she emerged, wrapped in a plush hotel robe with her hair combed back, she looked younger. Fragile but determined. Emma was clean and dry, sleeping peacefully in a hotel crib that had been brought up. Sarah sat down at the table where room service had laid out a feast. She ate slowly at first, as if she had forgotten how, then with increasing hunger. Daniel sat across from her, drinking coffee, watching. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah asked finally, setting down her fork. "You don't know me. Why do you care?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, considering the question. Why did he care? He had built his life on not caring, on keeping emotion out of decisions, on viewing the world through spreadsheets and profit margins. But sitting here, watching this young mother eat her first real meal in who knows how long, watching her baby sleep safe and warm, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose beyond profits. Meaning beyond success. "I had a sister once," he said slowly. "She was younger than me. When our parents died, I was 17 and she was 12. He worked 3 jobs to keep us together, to keep her fed and in school. He built my company for her, to give her a better life. But I got so caught up in building, in succeeding, and I forgot to actually be there for her. By the time I realized it, we had grown apart. She moved across the country. We barely speak now." He looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully. "When I saw you on that bench, protecting your daughter from the rain, willing to suffer anything to keep her safe. He saw what real strength looks like. What real love looks like. And I thought, maybe this is a chance to do something right. To actually help someone who needs it, not just throw money at a problem." Sarah's eyes were bright with tears. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Daniel replied. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out the practical things. He owns several apartment buildings, we'll find you a place. My company has job openings. If you're willing to work, I'm willing to give you a chance. And there's childcare assistance, health insurance, all the things you and Emma need." "Why?" Sarah whispered. "Why are you doing all of this?" Daniel smiled, a real smile, perhaps the first genuine one in years. "Because tonight, in the rain, you reminded me of something I had forgotten. That success means nothing if we don't use it to help others. That being strong sometimes means accepting help. That we're all just people, trying our best, and sometimes we need someone to see us." Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for seeing us." Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean. But inside the warm hotel room, 2 people who had lost their way had found something unexpected. Not romance, that would be a different story for a different time. But something equally precious, Opie, connection, and the reminder that kindness could change everything. Emma stirred in her sleep, making a small sound. Sarah went to her immediately, soothing her with gentle words. Daniel watched them, mother and daughter, and felt the cold, efficient walls he had built around his heart begin to crumble. The battle would bring practical concerns, housing, employment, rebuilding a life. But tonight was about warmth and safety and the simple miracle of strangers becoming something more. The rain had brought them together. And from that rain, something beautiful was beginning to grow.